that you both are on this journey as we bring a new show with new content. It's so exciting to have a cooking show, and especially from two people who are so accomplished as the two of you. Simon, I'm going to spotlight you, and if you would share a little bit about your background as a chef, and don't be shy. We'd love to hear it.
Great. Hello, everybody. I'm Simon Macdonald from the West Highlands of Scotland, a beautiful part of the world. I've been passionate about food ever since I could pick up a fork and eat the stuff, and determined one day to work with it and play with it and do all sorts of things with it. And food should be fun, because it is fun. And I've also been very passionate about fish. My other hat I wear, I'm in the world of fisheries. On my cooking world, I've cooked for royalty from 5 different royal households. I've cooked for 3 US presidents in my life as well. And I used to have a food smoking business. We shipped over to the States, to Beverly Hills in the West, right over to Tokyo in the East, into airlines, Cunard shipping line, and a lot of very, very influential and well-known private individuals as well.
Thank you, Simon. That's fantastic. We're so lucky and privileged to have you here today, so thank you. And over to Ricki McKenna from Ricki's Kitchen. Ricki, can you give us a little bit about your background as a chef?
Oh, thank you. Yes. And thank you, Dr. Jacalyn and Simon. I have been cooking since I was old enough to reach the stove. And it's developed into a lifelong habit as well as a love, the same as Simon. I absolutely love food and I love experimenting with it. And so as a nutritionist, what I've done is convert all that all the information that I've had in the last 20 plus years as a nutritionist. I've taken that and incorporated it into the foods that I make for myself. And I also am a chef for seniors. I go into other people's homes where I cook for them and prepare meals for them. I believe that food is to be absolutely enjoyed and not to be feared, as we've gone through this whole years of low fat, no fat, don't eat this, don't eat that, do eat what makes you happy. And just eat it in moderation. If it's something that's really a disaster, I will let you know. But in the meantime, I developed Ricki's Kitchen out of a need during our pandemic and started calling it pan-tuitive cooking because I'm an intuitive chef. I can follow a recipe if need be, but I believe that recipes, except for baking, are meant to be interpreted by the person who's cooking and for whom you're cooking. So if you like a little more garlic in something, put a little more garlic in it. If you like a little less something, or you want a different spice, try that out. It's all intuitive, and whatever happens, it's usually delicious and a lot of fun. So that's my philosophy behind my cooking, and I enjoy doing this for other people as well as for myself. As I said, I've been cooking since I was a little kid, and that's a lot of decades. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Ricki. Appreciate that. And we've got a comment from LinkedIn, Tammy Tuthill. Hi, Ricki.
Hi, Tammy.
Thanks for watching, Tammy. Yes, thank you for being here. Okay, so chefs, I am going to start with Simon. What are you going to be sharing with us today, sir?
Right, we're going back to basics. And I'll teach you a little bit about how to look after these things, your knives. It's the most important piece of kit you've got in the kitchen. But also, back to basics, this beautiful salmon, as I say, fresh out of the water. I'll tell you what to look for when you're buying your fish, and then I'll show you how to fillet the fish. Once I've done that, I'll do 1 or 2 different cuts of it as well, and explain why and how they're done. And then, rather than cooking tonight, I'm going to cure. Try to make it better. And it will be gravlax, which is a beautiful, beautiful, simple dish, but it's like smoked salmon, but it's not actually smoked. It's cured with sugar and dill. And I've got a little magic ingredient tonight as well. I've got some smoked dulse. Beautiful seaweed just imparts that extra special bit of flavor. So, to start with, your knife.
Simon, I just want to interject and say, I love salmon. You know, I'm obsessed with salmon, and this is all information that I know for me is going to be so valuable as for the rest of our audience. So I'm going to spotlight you, and you can just take it away.
Thank you. And Ricki, I very much appreciate what you said about recipes. Recipes are there; they're an inspiration to look at, to work through, and you put your own interpretation onto it as well, and just make the adjustments here and there to suit your own taste or the taste of your guests. So, firstly, knives. Different knives for different purposes. This is really the knife which I would use for filleting salmon. I've had this for many years, and it has filleted, I hate to think how many tons. This one is specifically for slicing salmon. It's got I'm trying to get the right light on it. There we are. You can see it's got a fluted edge to the blade, not serrated, but it's fluted, and it's very thin, it's very flexible. This actually was a gift to me by Mohammed Al Fayed, who used to own Harrods in London. I did a television show there, and I was demonstrating slicing smoked salmon. He rather liked what I was doing, and so he presented me with this knife. This knife has cut over 1 million slices of salmon, and it still works. So, sharpening your knife, there's two ways. The steel, when you use a steel, you see lots of people doing this down towards themselves. Well, they've always got cut wrists. So don't do that. Put the point of the steel in the ground and sharpen it down the way, like that. And that way you're not going to get cut. You won't have to dial 911 or get somebody else to dial it, and your knife will have a beautiful edge. Now you'll see as well, when I sharpen the knife, and this is the other way, stone. The stone, you wet it and keep it wet, and you run the knife down like that. Rather than drawing the knife to you, push the knife down. It gives a much better edge. So down like that, and then back a couple of times, down like that a few times. So that's your basic knife care. Different knives, different sizes for different jobs. This is a 6-inch chef's knife. We've got fruit knives. But be sure to use your knives and use all of them, because they all have purposes. And for the basic chef's knife, I love this one. And this is a good all-round club. You can use this for anything, but a big knife is a very useful tool in the kitchen. And a sharp knife is a safe knife. A blunt knife is so dangerous. Now, to choose your fish should look alive. It should be vibrant. It should be nice and shiny on the flesh. It shouldn't really smell. If fish smells, then it's starting to go off. So fish shouldn't have that smell. Some of the sea fish maybe do, rabbit fish and things like that, which you don't see much of. The next thing you do, lift up the gills, the gill flap. This is where it breathes. And this should be nice and red. If it's gone dull and gray, forget it. Don't touch it. Look at the eyes. The eyes should be vibrant. The eyes should be staring at you and saying, come on, I'm a really good one, so go for me. So that's the basics on the salmon. Salmon is Scotland's, or actually the UK's biggest food export. So it's it's a wonderful thing. It's so good for you. It's full of omega-3s and omega-6s, all the fatty acids that are good for you, the good fats. So to start filleting, we have to remove the head. Now, so many people start cutting back about here past the fins, and they waste a lot of meat. If you feel the back of the head there, there's actually a bit of a V, so we're going to cut with that. And I lift the gill flap and make the first cut in the V shape, and you can hear the bone almost clunk. Just run the knife round the gills and out like that. Turn the fish over and do the same on the other side. Now, don't throw these things away, because fantastic stock. I'm going to show you that when you're doing salmon, and this one weighs about 7 pounds, 3.2 kilos in European money. So that's it. We just twist the head. If you want to have a real treat, the salmon cheeks, they're so delicious. I'm going to put that in the pot. The head and the excess bones, well, That makes the most wonderful fish stock. Next thing, on the back, you'll feel there's a ridge goes down here towards the fin. So I'm just going to score through on that ridge all the way down just to the fin. I'm not cutting deep into the flesh. I'm just scoring through there. And that's our guideline. So next thing, we turn the fish around, lift the flap, and about 1 inch back from the neck, put the knife point in and cut out the way and on top of the bone. The next one, you slide it just under the backbone, bring it out, and that's your real guide. Now, you following me? Now we put the knife back in the other way, and we just, keeping that edge of the knife flat onto the backbone, we slide it all the way down. There's a little bit of resistance there with that fin, so I'll just take that through like that. So there we go. And it actually almost plays a tune when you're going down that backbone. And we take it down to about there. There's another fin there, the anal fin, and we stop there because I'm going to use this as the cushion to guide the knife the next bit. So we turn the salmon over, lift the flap, and this time again on top of the backbone, and we just, the sound of it, it's like unzipping something. And that's basically what we're doing. This time we take the cut all the way out, turn it over once again, bring it up. Now stay. I told you it's fresh. Back down to where we were on the first side, and now we just draw it all the way out. And there we have one side. We have the backbone. Now I'm not going to chuck that one just yet, and we have the other side. Now just put them together. With the backbone, I'll show you a good trick to do with that. Now I'm sort of clear with that knife just now. A teaspoon. And where you see down the backbone, there's still quite a bit of flesh there left on that. So run the teaspoon all the way down the spine, and you can do that on both sides, and it just pulls away that flesh. And keep that aside, because that goes to make patty, fish cakes, all sorts of different things. So there's no waste. Run it down the other side as we did before. Pull that off, and there we go. So now we've got quite a bit there aside, which delicious fish cakes. So this again, just break that up and pop that into the stock pot. To finish the stock off nicely, you want to maybe start using some roughly chopped onions, cut up a lemon, just throw it in, bit of white wine, top it up with water, salt, pepper, put it on the gas and reduce it right down. And you'll get this lovely concentrated liquid. Absolutely delicious. So what I'm going to do is I'll just drop this over here just now, out of the way. And we'll work with this side here. Now, we've still got stragglers of bits of bone off that dorsal fin. That's the top fin. So we just want to trim those out very gently, like that. It's like playing a violin almost. You use the knife, let the knife do the work. You don't have to do any work. The knife does it all in the stock pot. We've got these rib bones as well, so we want those out. So we just take the knife down. So you should be able to see the pattern of the knife underneath there. That's them. And that's them. And here's the top ones here. Now, if I was smoking this side of salmon for cold smoking, then I would be curing it from now with salt and sugar. And then what I would do when it's come off the cure, I bring it up and I put a spike through the top there, tied with string, so the sides get hung like that in the smoker. I also take about an inch or so out about there, which is the thickest part of the flesh, and that allows the salts to uptake. However, we're not smoking this one. So I will take this bit of bone off, so it'll make it easier for us cutting. And that's it. There's very little wastage in that. Go straight into the stock pot. I will also just tidy up the trim around here because we want rid of these fins here, so they're just going to be in the way. But don't cut off too much of the fat along the bottom here because this gives the flavor. Keep that going. When I was smoking the salmon, one of the best treats we had, and they come out of the smoker, and this fat would be starting to render down, and just run the finger down there and just eat that. Oh, it's so good, and really good for you as well. The dog I had at the time was a spaniel who lived 4 days short of her 20th birthday, so it speaks volumes about just how good this stuff is for you. So we'll just keep that aside. Now, there's so many different cuts you can take from this. For doing gravlax, I'll cut about there, but before I do that, we've got to look down here, and if you run your finger down the side there, you'll feel lots of little bones. There are 28 of them going down there, called pin bones. So we have these pliers, just very fine pliers, and we just tease them out one at a time, right the way down. I used to be able to fillet, or when I was busy in the smokehouse, filleting a salmon right the way down, ready for smoking, would take me about a minute, just a shade over a minute. I think I did manage to get one to just about 58 seconds at one stage. You know, speed's one of these things that you build up after time, and you know, I always found though it took about 8 fish before I really got the speed going. It's like when you get your car started in the morning, particularly if it's an older car, it takes that little bit extra time to crank the thing up and get it all working. So there we are, we're nearly there with the bones. Who's been counting them? I haven't, but I know where they are. And when you're taking these out, always pull towards the head end of the fish. That way they'll come out clean and they won't cause what we call gaping. Now, gaping is when the flesh splits. And if you see salmon that's been filleted out by a fishmonger and it's got, you know, horrible big gaps going down the way, then, you know, leave it alone if you can, because it's, you know, it just hasn't been filleted very well. I'll just take that out there. That's fine. So we'll cut this piece off here, which we're going to make gravlax with. So I'll just sit that one aside. Now, for who doesn't love salmon steaks? But what's the big problem with salmon steak? It's the bones. So there's a way around that. You cut a piece off the fillet, about an inch. And then you cut through that, again, down as far as the skin, but not through the skin. And then fold it over. And there you have a perfect salmon steak, no bones. No bones about it. So that's one of the cuts. Other cuts you can do, I mean, we eat salmon nearly every day. We certainly eat fish every day. So you can cut it down like that, lots of fillets, individual pieces. And, you know, this is how we do it. Even the puppy gets one as well. She had salmon earlier today. She loves it. And she's got such a glossy coat as a result. And that top piece there, that will be her next treat. Oh, lucky doggy. So to take the skin off that, it's very simple. Now this is another knife, very similar to the slicing knife, not quite as flexible. So for that one, you've got the piece of salmon, skin side down there, and go to the top of it, just cut in a little bit like that, hold it with your fingers, and just run the knife down like that. And it comes off the skin. That's it, completely skinless. And there's the skin. That can go in there as well. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how to fillet a salmon and the various simple cuts from it. It's the easiest fish in the world to work with. It's the most beautiful fish in the world to work with. Now, gravlax. This is the next great joy. I'll just slide that board along. And I'll show you in a minute. We have a saying in the UK, I've done the Blue Peter bit, which means, you know, this is one which I prepared earlier. It was always the catchphrase. Blue Peter was a marvelous television program aimed at kids, but it tended to get audience of big kids as well. So to make gravlax, what we do, you need two boards, two cutting boards like that, because that piece of salmon will fit neatly on there. This one will go on top of it. So with that, we bring out the other bits and pieces we have for it, ingredients. And we need salt, just ordinary fine grained salt. And we need sugar. Brown sugar works best, but you can use white sugar if you like, or the darker sugars, the muscovado sugars as well, to give a depth of flavor. Really, really lovely. So to make gravlax at first, we sprinkle some salt onto the board, just like that. Just spread it out thin. Now this part can be quite thin. And then we put the piece for making gravlax onto there. Now, next, the magic ingredient, the smoked dulse. This is wonderful. It's by a company called Mara. It's a Scottish company, and they've just recently started producing this, and it is on sale in America as well. So it's, you know, they're really going for the worldwide market. It's a fabulous product. I've just recently been gifted some of these to try, and it's so nice. And you just need to use very little. So I'm just sprinkling a pinch or so over the gravlax, and just leave that there. So it's just a dusting, light dusting of it. And then dill. Now you can use fresh dill, but it's one of these things that's seasonal. So there's the dried dill. It's got a lovely sort of minty type of finish to it. So we're sprinkling a load of that on. Now, where the flesh is thicker, you want to have a deeper layer of it. But you want it fairly even right throughout, so it's almost hidden the color of the flesh from sight. So there we are. So that's done there. Just give it a little pat down. Now the next thing we want on top of there is sugar, and you can be quite generous with the sugar. Now this is the sugar and the salt are the real curing agents. So again, you see I'm putting a thicker layer of sugar towards the top, and then thinner down towards the tail, because it's not as dense a meat, so it doesn't take as much cure. So that's that. And we finish it off with salt. Again, more at the top end where the flesh is thicker, and then just a very light dusting down towards the tail. Once again, just a slight pat down like that. And then your other board sit on top like that. Now you need a bit of a weight on that board, which I'm doing with that. So that's the simple part of it all. Now the boards need to be canted at an angle, and I've got the bag of sugar on top there. Very high-tech stuff, this, you know. So here we go. We lift this up, and this is to catch the drips of the brine as it comes down. So we'll just sit that there, and that weighs it down. In 5 hours, you take it off, you knock the salt off it, but don't knock the dill off it. That'll still stay on. It'll stick well to the flesh itself. So just knock the salt off it like that, wave it about, and then wait for a day if you can. It's very tempting. And it's then just ready to eat. So I'll just pop this over here out of the way. And here's the Blue Peter bit.
We lost audio.
There we are. Can you hear? You got me again?
Yes, you're good.
Good, lovely, right. Technical trouble. That's 21st century for you. So we've cut about 2 inches back from there, sliced down a shallow angle. We finish with a piece like that. That's going to go into making the patty as well. The next slice, you just take it back just about 1/4 of an inch from where you were and slice it down very thin like that. And there we've got one lovely slice. Do the same, and you can do the same all the way down until you've sliced the whole lot, or else you just take off however many slices you want. I'm just taking 2 or 3 off just now. These won't last long, I can tell you. Love this stuff. So there's another one off. See that it's almost transparent. Slice them very, very thin. And once your knife skills are built up, you'll be able to slice cardboard as thin as paper. So that is the end. That is the gravlax. Absolutely delicious. And, oh boy, I love that. My favorite fish in the sea, Atlantic salmon. There's really nothing to beat it. So 5 hours time, we've got another batch of gravlax. Guess what I'm eating tonight? Thank you, everybody.
Simon, that was fantastic. Well done. I've got a few questions for you. And yes. The first one is, I've always had a curiosity around skin on or skin off. So it looks like in the one case you took the skin off, in the other case the skin was on. What are your thoughts about when to do that? Is it just when you're making gravlax?
If I'm smoking the salmon or making gravlax, then yes, keep the skin on. Because otherwise it will take the salt up too quickly. If you're cooking with the salmon, it's actually quite nice if you're pan frying in a mixture of butter and oil, pan fry it with the skin on, the fillet, so you can do it skin side down first, flip it over and do the other side. You'll know when it's time to flip it over when you can see the color of the cooked salmon coming to about halfway up the fillet. Then you flip it over to the other side, and it just needs a minute or so, and that's it, and it's cooked through. And if you've got a good hot heat, then that skin should be nice and crispy, and it's so nice to eat. I mean, it's like pork crackling. It's wonderful. So that I'd keep it on. With the fillets, I mean, the way I love to do it at home is to have these fillets, and we will do this in another show, is to have the fillets with the skin off, and then just to poach them just very lightly, and then do a lovely creamed white wine and dill sauce to go with it. Sensational, absolutely sensational. So you can have either on or off. I mean, there's, it's personal preference.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Another question I have is, when you buy the salmon, I know you mentioned that it shouldn't have any smell. So if you go to a grocery store or market where they're selling salmon and it has an expiration date that's in the future, but yet there's some smell, that's a definite do not buy?
I would be very wary. If you can smell it and it's obviously pre-packed, if it's got an expiration date on it, And if you can smell it through that packaging, then you've got a serious problem inside that packaging. Yes, definitely. Or it could be that it's been in contact with some other fresh fish outside of that, and that the slime from the fresh fish is maybe turned. So the package inside should be all right, because with the expiry date they give it's not cast in stone that as soon as it hits that date, it's gone off. It doesn't work that way. Companies have got to show a bit of due diligence and be quite safe about this. So that I would always put on, build in a safety barrier there. So if I said a 14-day shelf life on it, I would be quite confident and happy to eat it after, say, 21 days. So the expiry dates are very important, but it's it's best to keep within those dates, just in case you're dealing with a company that says this is the maximum and really mean it.
That explains why I've had some stomach aches, I think, because the fish was smelly. So the next question I have is, once you prepare the fish, and I know there's obviously different ways to prepare, how long is it good after it's been cooked? Can you eat it for a few days after that?
Once you've cooked the salmon or cooked your fish, once it's cooked, you could keep it in the fridge for a while. I wouldn't do that with shellfish. But with fin fish, like some salmon or cod or haddock or whatever, you can cook it and put it in the fridge. If you're using fresh fish that's been frozen, then you've brought it out the freezer, you've defrosted it, and you've cooked it. Once it's been cooked, you can refreeze it quite safely again, because the cooking process has changed the consistency of it and the chemical balance of it sufficiently that it is suitable for freezing again. That where possible, always buy fresh fish that is there and it's fresh rather than pre-packaged.
Wonderful tips. I wasn't aware of that. So thank you. Brilliant presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Ricki's cooking up tonight.
I am too. Ricki, you're on mute. And we're actually going to go to a break. And when we come back, we will be back with Ricki. So let's take a look at a sponsorship that we have from our friend Madeline Chan. She's the award-winning singer, songwriter. She is a producer, and she's also an author. So we'll take a listen to her music video and hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
What you give me is just not enough. I need a love to take me higher and higher and higher. Every step I take, I feel more awake. Getting closer now, I feel so alive. Stopping me, this is how I live. Ever closer now. Just follow love, and love will take you there.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diane Boehm. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diane Floyd Boehm tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diane's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diane's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diane's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diane's delightful books and much more at dianefloydbame.com. Visit dianfloydboehm.com. That's dianefloydbame.com.
Hello and welcome back to USA Global TV, home of Talking Heads, and also welcome to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio out of New York. You're watching a brand new show, episode 1 of the United Kitchens. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and the stars of our show, Simon Macdonald and Ricki McKenna, are cooking things up in their kitchen. So, Simon, I would just like to let our viewers know, in case they joined us late, to go over to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV, because you don't want to miss anything of what Simon shared. He showed us how to sharpen knives. He showed us how to fillet a salmon and also how to make gravlax. So well done, Simon. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been great fun.
I'm having a blast. And I'm very hungry, by the way. I love salmon. So we're going to turn the next segment over to Ricki McKenna from rickiskitchen.com. Ricki, this stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. And thank you, Simon. That was a marvelous presentation. Excuse me. My mom used to make gravlax, and I really didn't get a chance to watch her do it, but I did get a chance to eat it, and it is superb. So thank you for doing that. I learned a whole bunch. Well, today in Ricki's Kitchen, we're going to do something traditional in the United States, and everybody knows about burgers, whether you call them hamburgers or cheeseburgers or whatever you call them. And so today what I thought I would do is do my version of a traditional or maybe non-traditional burger, one of which is a Thai burger, which I've done what, I don't recall what you called it, Simon, but it's already prepared, and I'm going to put the finishing touches on it and show you what it looks like. First of all, this is the way it starts as ground pork, and the ingredients in the Thai burger, and what we'll finish up with is a traditional American, more of an American burger, but the Thai style burger, and I'm going to actually use that and make some meatballs from it, includes lemongrass, and it includes chili or chili pepper, garlic, scallions, button mushrooms, or actually, since I was fresh out of button mushrooms and I did have a portobello, I chopped up a portobello mushroom to put in it. It includes Thai fish sauce and, of course, some fresh cilantro, which is one of the seasonings or greens that the Thai cooking is famous for, Thai cuisine, and then lime juice. So here's our finished, almost, Thai burgers, and you can see they're a little bit different. They smell absolutely marvelous, and rather than putting them on a bun, I would have used a sesame bun and sliced it in half and put on some mayonnaise that's been seasoned with a little more chopped up cilantro and some lime juice. So what I'm going to do with it instead is just put it up on top. And it's a great way to serve your burgers for those who are either gluten-free or don't wish to eat a burger if they're counting carbs. So what I'm going to do is just sprinkle it on there like that. And there we have it. And it's sitting on, not shredded, but sliced Chinese cabbage. So you get a full flavor of the Asian flavors, and they're absolutely delicious. I did have one. I tasted one earlier, and it really is good. But when you make the meatballs or the patties, what I suggest is I use gloves because it's kind of gooey and greasy. And so I'm going to put my gloves on. And this way, of course, if you're also preparing for company or even for yourself, I like to keep my hands a little clean, and I do get my hands in the food. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it up, because you can mix it more efficiently, I think, this way. We've already made actually a paste using the lemongrass and the cilantro and the lime juice. And so right now I'm just going to make these into meatballs rather than the hamburgers. So you have a choice of what you can do when you're using a ground meat. And I'm going to take them and put them in the pan. They're about, maybe 2 inches in diameter. Or how many centimeters is that? Something like 4, I guess, 5. At any rate, we're going to make meatballs. And of course, since they're pork, they have to cook through. So I'm cooking them in a pan, and I'm going to cover them. They will brown, and they'll come out and be absolutely delicious. And I would suggest either serving them with the Chinese cabbage that you either shred or cut up into little pieces, or you can put them on noodles, traditional noodles, or the Thai noodles, which are very light and don't have a lot of flavor themselves, but they're a great accompaniment and a great place food to put them on when you're serving them. Okay, we've got a little baby here. And I've got 5 meatballs, and I did start with 1 pound of ground pork, and the 2 burgers are made from that. So this makes, you'll have another recipe. I've used the pan to make the burgers. Don't be afraid to do that. And I'm going to put it on kind of a medium heat, because I don't want it to splatter all over the place, and I want to cook it slowly so that the pork gets cooked all through. I love what you said, Simon, about cooking the salmon, how to do it with the skin on, because that's exactly how I do it, because I like it. I love the skin crispy, and then the salmon is so sweet and so soft. When you cook it, it's firmly soft, if that makes sense. So now I'm going to switch gloves and do my more of a traditional American burger. We're starting out with 1 pound of organic beef, chopped beef, and I'm going to mix it up I use a big fork, because I find that I can mix things beautifully with a big fork. And of course, I do have my sharp knife, and we'll be using that very shortly. And I have my favorite knives, and I'm sure you do, Simon, as well. So we're mixing up the chop, and I'm getting it to where in the bowl, and I always use a bowl that lets you move things around. Don't take a little tiny bowl to do all this, because you think the meat will fit in it. Give yourself room to move. So there we go with a start. And the first thing that I'm going to put in is an egg. Now you can beat the egg before you put it in slightly, so that it gets distributed evenly. But I'm just going to carefully break it up, break up the yolk, break the white up. And this helps to give us a little bit more juice in the meat, because I like my hamburgers and anything that I make like this fairly juicy. And of course I use, just for curiosity's sake, we use it's 80% lean. It's an 80-20 combination. So I'm not afraid of the fats in here, because nutritionally, we need fats for our brain. Fat, definitely the good fats, as in salmon, as in nuts, and other food products like that, good oils like olive oil and grapeseed oil. And those are the fats that help your vitamins D, E, A, and K to be utilized in your body. Now, what's a hamburger without garlic? So we're going to use some garlic. And I'm going to use just 2 cloves. And I have a hint for you as far as preparing garlic and having it ready when you want it. I like to store things in glass. And at your local grocery store, many of them today have garlic that's already peeled and in a package, whether it's a plastic package or a plastic dish, whatever that's covered. When you get it at home, I rinse the garlic and then I dry it off and I put it into glass. I always store in glass. And I found this glass, which used to be a jelly jar. I found that I put it into the refrigerator without a little bit of plastic wrap on top of it. And what happened was the whole refrigerator had this marvelous aroma of garlic. So I took it out and I put the plastic wrap on top of it and then put the top back on. So that's a hint as far as how you store it without having your refrigerator smell like garlic. And so I'm going to chop up my garlic, or I could use a garlic press, which would be infinitely easier, but it's much more fun this way. And I should have it chopped up in just a second. And make sure you check both sides of your knife and make sure it's really sharp. And we'll have that done just shortly. And I'm not going to use my broiler. I do have something called a foodie that I use very often for broiling. I'm going to use it and pan fry it. So we're going to put the garlic in. And as I say, I like to mix things up as I put them in there. So we'll mix up the garlic and get it through. And I'm going to add a wee bit of salt, just a pinch, because everybody can add their own salt on a burger or anything else that's served individually. So I really like the flavors that it brings out, because salt does serve to bring out the flavors in your foods. And we'll just mix it up pretty thoroughly. I'm using kosher salt, but you can use any kind of salt, Himalayan sea salt, whatever works for you. And of course, some ground pepper. Just a little, because again, everybody can add their own, but it does help when you put it in to cook. And so that's fairly traditional, what we've done so far. What may be untraditional is I'm going to add some sliced onion. And actually, you usually get the onion when someone serves it, and that's fine. I like to use red onions for that, but I'm going to use, maybe about 1/4 cup of diced onion, and just put it directly into the meat so that it does add some more juiciness. We'll just slice a piece off and go through that. And if you dice it up carefully, it adds to the flavor and, of course, the juiciness of your hamburgers. I'm making it really, really tiny. And happily, this onion is not making me cry yet, but very often that happens. So if and when that happens, try chopping your onion underwater, or at least slicing it underwater. And you can also have a fan blowing that blows the aromas and the allium and all the wonderful juices that come in the onion. We've got about, I would say, about 1/2 cup. So I'm going to use about half of that, about 1/4 cup, and mix that up in there. I don't know if you can see. There you go. All right. just to get it through out the whole pound of meat, whatever meat you're using. You can do the same thing with turkey burgers, by the way, and using ground turkey for those of you who don't eat beef. Okay, we've got that. And a little untraditional again, I have some chopped cilantro that I'm going to put in there and add to it in the greens. Sometimes I even use chopped up celery. Again, it all adds to the juice in the meat. And especially if you prefer to use a lower fat content of meat, something that's 90% fat, or 90% lean and 10% fat, excuse me. All right, so we have our salt and pepper, we have onion, and we have cilantro. And we're going to put in a little bit of that mushroom that I mentioned that went into the Thai burger just for fun, just because I think it's a great idea. So, by the way, when you get your mushrooms home, please use either a paper towel or a mushroom brush, and don't put them under water, because water tends to, the mushrooms are very, very much like sponges, and it will make them mushy, and that's not what you want. So I'm cutting the little leg out there, and just a little bit of this. I'm going to slice about 3/4 of an inch piece of a portobello. And of course, I'll take the others later and do something wonderful with them. And I'm going to chop that up finely. And of course, you can also saute the mushrooms next to the burger so that you have that to put over it instead of putting it in it. But I think this is going to be fun because it helps to keep my burgers nice and juicy and give them lots of flavor. Okay. And I've got about 1/4 cup of that. The mushrooms, we're going to put that in there and mix it up. Now here's the final thing, and I learned this many, many years ago. As I said, I was cooking when I was a kid, and I had an aunt and uncle who traveled the world, and actually he was the deputy executive director of care, and I think I was the only college student that got care packages in the United States when he was with care. But they did travel all over, and one of the things my aunt taught me was she would take a piece of bread. And for those of you who are gluten-free, this is gluten-free bread. And she would take the bread and run it underneath her water. And since I don't use tap water, and this is the water that I was drinking, I'm just going to drizzle a little bit on there. Cover it and let it soak in. Here's the fun part, you get to squish. And with the crust, I'm going to put little tiny pieces. I'm going to take little pieces off and just pinch them off and put the bread in there as well. And what you'll find, whether you're making meatballs or whether you're making burgers, that the bread helps also to give it some moisture. And it absorbs the flavors, and it comes almost like stuffing. So stuffing a hamburger instead. And I'm just looking at our time. I think that's enough. We've got about half of the piece. And it was a small piece. And remember, again, this is gluten-free. So if you have problems with gluten, if you're celiac, or you have any challenges with gluten-free, and I don't know if that would affect your tummy, Dr. Jacalyn, but it might. So there we go. We've got the bread, the onion, the cilantro, the garlic, and we're salt and pepper, of course. And I'm going to form the burgers. And actually, I'll just do them with my hand for time's sake. And I grab out enough to make about a 3-inch diameter patty. I'm going to clear that off. There we go. let's take that. I'm going to put it in the pan. And I'm going to put a teeny bit of olive oil in the pan. Just about a teaspoon, and let it move around a bit and turn it on to medium-high. Meantime, we're going to check on the meatballs. Oh my gosh, they do smell good. And I'm going to turn them over. They're browning on one side, so I'm going to turn them over. And they've created a lovely juice, which can be used when you're serving them. Here we go. And I'm going to turn them down to low and let them cook a little bit more while our burgers get going here. I'm going to move the oil around the pan and put my burger down there. And then depending on how rare you like your meat, and this is beef, so you can do a rare hamburger. It's organic beef. I would cook them on one side for about 7 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes, and then flip them over once they're browned and cook them for another maybe 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how you like them. So here we have the patties are ready to go in. They're about a ½ inch or more thick. Now you can put them in the broiler. I'd put them in the broiler and just keep your eyes on them for about the same amount of time. I put them in the broiler, of course it's at 500, so that would work. And do them for about 5 or 6 minutes on one side and then flip them over. Or you can even leave them in the broiler and they will get cooked, but I prefer to flip them and finish them off that way. Either you can add your cheese, you can add anything you really like on top of the hamburger. I happen to like my burgers with Swiss cheese, which is an interesting flavor, especially with all the goodies that I put in it. And I'm a ketchup fan. So you season them off, finish them off with the ketchup or whatever you like. And they're starting to sizzle right about now. I'm just going to move them around so they have space between them. And just a teeny bit of the oil, by the way, not a lot. And turn my heat down to medium-high. And there you have it. And they will come out very similar to the Thai burgers, the same size. And I believe that is my traditional hamburger. So if anybody has any questions, I'm open for it.
Well done, Ricki. Well done.
I'm going to slice my mushroom and put it in the pan so that it sautés with the burger.
I thought that was really fascinating when you mentioned about not putting mushrooms underwater, because I do that every single time.
No. Do you find they get soggy?
They get very soggy very quickly.
Mushrooms are, most of them, especially if you get the organic ones, they're in the air. They grow in air, as well as on trees, like the portobellos grow on trees, shiitakes grow on trees, or at least something that looks like bark. And so they're perfectly clean in many ways, especially if you get the organic one. So just carefully wipe them with a paper towel or get a mushroom brush or a soft vegetable brush. That's what I would suggest. And I've got my portobello ready to go in the pan with the burgers. Let's see. Oh,
they lose the flavor when you put them in water as well.
Yes, they never really taste like anything.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to wait just a little bit because I don't want to overcook the mushrooms either. Until I turn them over, and the mushrooms only need a couple of minutes in there, and I will probably sprinkle a little bit of rosemary on them, just for fun. I like to season and surprise people, and I'd either use, this is ground rosemary, because you know rosemary has those little, they look little sticks. So I could put that into the burger mix, or I can sprinkle it on them now before I flip them over, so that it'll draw it in when it cooks. So it's ground rosemary. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on top. and then flip them over. Carefully. And I'm going to make sure that my oil is over on one side and all the drippings from the burgers, and put my mushrooms in. So your pan can look like this. This is a 10-inch skillet, just FYI. And there's my mushrooms. And you can see the juice, and they will absorb every bit of it. Okay. And I've got it on medium, so I'm going to let them finish it. And actually turn it off, because I don't like my hamburgers well done. So, do we have any questions out there?
Well done, Ricki. That was fantastic. I am so hungry. I can't even tell you guys. And believe it or not, we have actually run out of time on our show. So I just want to thank both of you. And I'm excited for this to be replayed over and over again on all of our channels, because there's so much great content. Ricki, let's zoom in on you.
Yes. Thank you
All right.
very much.
And how can people reach you?
Pardon me?
How can people reach you, Ricki?
You can reach me at patreon.com, patreon.com/Ricki McHealthy, RICKIMC Healthy, and at rickiskitchen.org.
Thank you, Ricki.
Thank
Beautiful
you.
presentation.
Thank you, Jacalyn and Simon.
That looks so good.
Simon, how can people reach you?
Oh, send a carrier pigeon. Yeah. I'll cook it and send back the meal. Macdonald Simon at ymail.com, and that's MacDonaldSimon at the letter ymail.com.
Thank you, Simon. We'll add that to your banner for next time. All right, folks, it's been a pleasure having you here. Simon and Ricki, I look forward to seeing you again next week.
Absolutely.
Lovely. We'll be cooking up a storm.
Eat hearty.
I will. Bye-bye.
Right.
Bye now.
Bye.
That was our first episode of the United Kitchens. We're so glad that you could join us, whether it's on the live or on the replay. You can watch all of our programming on our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV. We have 2 more shows coming up for today. The first one is Stories of Hope, Inspiration, and Overcoming Adversity. And my guest is author Linda Hughes. And our show after that is presenting Pet Psychic Amina. And obviously, Amina will be there, and our guest is Carla Francis. So thank you again for watching, and if you would like to share any comments or have any questions about the United Kitchens, please do reach out to me. My email address is Jacalyn, Jacalyn, at drjacalyn.com. If you'd like to be a sponsor on the show, maybe you'd like to be a guest on one of our other shows, what do you need to do? Just email me, Jacalyn at drjacalyn.com. Thank you again so much. We look forward to seeing you here very shortly for our next program, Stories of Hope, Inspiration, and Overcoming Adversity. Bye, Simon. Bye, Ricki. Bye, everyone.